Have you ever felt lost in the chaos of life, unsure of your purpose or direction? Imagine standing at a crossroads every single day, the choices you make shaping your destiny, your purpose, and even your eternal future. Fear not. For amidst this chaos, there exists a beacon of hope and guidance. Join us as we unlock the timeless wisdom hidden within the sacred pages of the Bible and discover how these ancient words hold the key to unlocking your true potential. Welcome back to another enlightening episode of Psalms Unlocked. Today we dive into Psalm 2, a psalm about identity, allegiance, and assurance. Buckle up for a deep dive into the profound truths contained in these ancient verses. Why do the nations rage and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, "Let us burst their bonds apart and cast away their cords from us." Before we unpack the meaning of these words, let's take a moment to appreciate the poetic beauty of the Psalms. The author uses vivid imagery and rhythmic cadence to paint a picture of chaos and control. By understanding the literary devices employed, we can fully grasp the depth of meaning embedded within. In this opening verse, the psalmist depicts a world in turmoil, a world where nations and people conspire against God and his anointed. But amid this uproar, a sense of futility permeates. Their plotting is in vain, their rage against a higher power destined to fail. The psalm begins with a rhetorical flourish, asking why the nations waste their energy on futile endeavors. This sets the stage for a dramatic confrontation between human ambition and divine sovereignty. The verb rage suggests a violent and uncontrolled anger, while plot implies a sense of secrecy and cunning. However, despite their efforts, the end of the verse reveals the ultimate futility of their actions. The nation's plotting is in vain. They rebel against the inevitable. The second verse continues this theme of futile rebellion. The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, "Let us burst their bonds apart and cast away their cords from us." The repetition of "against the Lord" and "against his anointed" emphasizes the gravity of their offense, a direct challenge to divine authority. The phrase "burst their bonds apart" signifies a desperate attempt to break free from restraint, while "cast away their cords" illustrates a desire to shed any remaining ties to God, law, or teachings. These rebellious leaders seek autonomy, freedom from what they perceive as restrictive laws and commandments. They reject the idea of being accountable to a higher power. Instead, they want to chart their own course, driven by self-interest and unchecked desires. But wait, because verses 4 through 6 contain a pivotal shift in the narrative. The tone changes from despair to triumph, as the psalmist reveals God's perspective. He who sits in the heavens laughs, as the Lord holds them in derision. Then he will speak to them in his wrath and terrify them in his fury, saying, "As for me, I have set my king on Zion, my holy hill." In these verses, we witness a powerful contrast between human rebellion and divine wisdom. While the leaders of the earth scheme and plot, God remains seated in heaven, unaffected by their schemes. The image of God laughing signifies his confidence and amusement at their futile attempts. It's as if he were chuckling at their misguided efforts. The change in tone is stark, highlighting God's absolute sovereignty over human affairs. Verse 5 further reinforces this message. "I have set my king on Zion, my holy hill." This declaration leaves no room for doubt. God has established his king on the symbolic Mount Zion, a place of worship and divine presence. This king is not just any ruler, but God's chosen representative on earth. Through this appointment, God asserts his authority and reminds all who hear of his unwavering control. And now we come to verses 7 through 12, which contain God's royal decree regarding his son and his rightful inheritance. It's a message filled with promises and expectations. "You are my son. Today I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will make the nations your heritage and the ends of the earth your possession. You shall break them with a rod of iron and dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel." These verses mark a significant turning point in the psalm. They reveal a close relationship between God and his son, establishing a bond of fatherhood and sonship. God proclaims, "You are my son," forging a connection that transcends mere lineage. It's a recognition of Christ's unique position as the chosen one, the Messiah. Furthermore, the statement, "Today I have begotten you," underscores the immediacy of this relationship. It's not something that happened in the distant past. It's a reality of the present. This declaration carries profound implications. It signifies that God has not abandoned humanity, but has chosen to draw near and establish a personal relationship with his people. The promise, "Ask of me, and I will give," reinforces this notion of accessibility. God offers his favor and blessings freely to those who seek him. The imagery of breaking nations with a rod of iron and dashing them like a potter's vessel symbolizes decisive and forceful action, points to a time when God's Son will exercise authority and bring about complete victory. And lastly, we come to the final verses of the psalm, verses 10 through 12, which contain a call to action and a reminder of God's sovereignty. "Now therefore, O kings, be wise. Be warned, O rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Lest he be angry and you perish in your way, for his wrath is quickly kindled. Blessed are all who take refuge in him." These verses conclude the psalm on a note of urgency and clarity. The psalmist addresses the kings and rulers directly, urging them to acknowledge God's authority. The call to serve the Lord with fear emphasizes the need for reverence and respect towards divine power. At the same time, the command to rejoice with trembling highlights the paradox of approaching God with both joy and humility. The phrase, "kiss the Son," serves as a metaphor for submission and allegiance. It's a symbolic act of showing devotion and obedience. The consequences of disregarding this call are severe. The psalmist warns that God's anger can be swift and his wrath intense. However, there is hope for those who heed the call. The closing line, "Blessed are all who take refuge in him," offers solace and reassurance. It signifies that God's protective presence is available to those who trust in him. So how does Psalm 2 speak to our lives today? Well, its message is as relevant now as it was in ancient times. First and foremost, Psalm 2 reminds us of God's unwavering sovereignty. No matter the chaos or turmoil we may see around us, God is in control. He sits enthroned and laughs at the futility of human rebellion against him. Second, the psalm underscores the importance of acknowledging God's authority in our lives. Just as the psalmist urges kings and rulers to bow before God, we too must recognize and submit to his lordship. Only then can we find peace and favor in his sight. Third, Psalm 2 highlights the promise of God's presence and protection. For those who seek refuge in him, the psalm assures us that God's love and care extend to all who call upon his name. We can find strength and comfort in knowing that he is with us, ready to guide and protect us through life's challenges. And fourth, and perhaps most important, Psalm 2 calls us to make a choice, an allegiance. It invites us to align ourselves with God and his anointed, to embrace his teachings and follow his path. It's a call to join the ranks of those who support and uphold God's righteous reign. The psalm concludes with a powerful blessing for those who choose to walk in God's ways. In conclusion, Psalm 2 is a profound reminder of God's sovereignty, his desire for our allegiance, and his promise of protection. It encourages us to acknowledge his authority in our lives and to trust in his unwavering presence. As we reflect on these timeless words, may we find strength in his promises and wisdom in his teachings. Let us choose to walk in God's ways, embracing his guidance and basking in the light of his favor. Thank you for joining us on this enlightening journey through Psalm 2. If you found this exploration of faith and spirituality valuable, please don't hesitate to hit the like button. Subscribe and share it with others who might be seeking guidance and inspiration. Your engagement helps spread the message of faith and encourages more people to join us on this transformative path.